Hey guys, LevelCap here, and welcome to another episode of This Week in Gaming. We do this show every Saturday, so be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to catch each episode. The next era of Star Wars movies, shows, and games following the end of the Skywalker saga will reportedly kick off in 2021. Specifically, details are unclear, but leaks regarding Disney's plan for Star Wars have made their way online. They suggest the next era for the franchise will be set 400 years before the Skywalker saga. This time it's being referred to as the High Republic. The overall story for this new era of Star Wars will likely be spread out MCU style across multiple movies, TV shows, and games, which are all interconnected with each other. Apparently, the first project going live will be a game. There's no specific details about the game, like a working title, genre, or platform, but we can expect a proper reveal sometime this year. Jedi Fallen Order and Battlefront 2 both made a big splash last year. Fallen Order reminded people just how good a proper Star Wars single-player game can actually be, and DICE have pretty much rescued Battlefront 2 from the grips of death with a plethora of content updates and new features, like co-op. 2019 was a great year for Star Wars games, even if the latest movie failed to wow critics and fans alike. Obviously, these leaks shouldn't be taken as fact. Disney are incredibly tight-lipped about Star Wars, and while it's likely we're getting plenty more games in the franchise, there's no telling what they'll be. The next-gen consoles debuted this holiday season, and there's no doubt in anyone's mind that big launch titles are in the works. Apex Legends is winding down its latest season of content with a new event that kicks off on the 14th. The Grand Soiree event will feature 7 unique limited-time game modes until the end of the month, with each mode lasting for 2 days. The modes include a gold weapon-only duos, one with respawns, a constantly shrinking circle, the return of King's Canyon at night, and more. As is standard for a limited-time event, there are a bunch of new cosmetic items, challenges, and unlocks coming with the Grand Soiree. This time around, they're all steampunk themed, which is pretty much a departure from the more recent cosmetics that have all been winter themed and a bit cartoony. Escape from Tarkov's recent blow-up success thanks to its Twitch Drops event hasn't come without its fair share of backlash. Complaints about the game's performance optimization, armor system, desync, and other gameplay mechanics picked up steam thanks to the massive influx of new players. One complaint, though, has certainly taken the woke world a bit more by storm. This is something that has been brought up before in the game's past, and that has been the lack of female playable characters. When asked if or when the game would get female playable characters, the devs have given a two-pronged response similar to what they've said in the past. One, there would be a lot more work to add female playable characters to the game and due to modeling and animation requirements, and two, it just doesn't really fit in with the game's lore. Naturally, this has upset members of the community who would like to be able to play as female characters. Some people have cited that the excuse on the amount of work doesn't really hold up. I think you could argue that either way. Battlefield 5 has female characters in it, but some of the clothing doesn't scale properly, and if Escape from Tarkov has a different system, it could actually be a huge amount of work to get all that clothing to scale and animate properly on new player models. As for the lore excuse, that one certainly doesn't hold up as well, considering that the game is fictional and there hasn't been a huge establishment in the lore about no women being present or a reason for that. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, especially since about 10% of the armed forces in Russia are female. At the end of the day, I think if Battlestate Games sees enough of an interest in seeing female player models added to the game where they can potentially see profit and growth for the game to make it worthwhile, they'll probably go ahead with it. Arguably, they could have had better optics for the whole situation had they not mentioned the whole lore side of the scenario. Platinum Games, the studio behind the Bayonetta franchise, also found themselves under scrutiny this week. They announced a partnership with Chinese mega company Tencent. The details of the partnership are undisclosed, but Platinum have received a capital investment as a basis for the partnership with Tencent. This isn't a buyout or anything, so Platinum will remain an independent company for now at least. The reason people are upset by the announcement is Tencent are essentially China's government-sponsored media conglomerate. They own large stakes in several companies like Epic Games, Activision, Blizzard, Ubisoft, and even fully own Riot Games. Recently, Blizzard was heavily criticized for banning the competitive Hearthstone Grandmaster Blitzchung after he made a pro-Hong Kong statement during an official livestream. It's generally accepted that Tencent and Blizzard's reliance on access to the Chinese market was the primary factor in Blitzchung's ban. Tencent have been buying up companies both from Asia and abroad for quite some time now. They're currently the largest gaming company in the world and are serious contenders in the technology, social media, and film industry. Tencent partnering with a regarded independent studio like Platinum just raises more concerns about Tencent's continued dominance of the gaming market. The more developers they buy, the less likely we're going to get games that don't conform to China's strict censorship regulations, and who knows what else. The original Doom and Doom 2 both got a major official update on all platforms. It adds in-game support for add-ons, 60 FPS, multiple aspect ratio options, quick save and load, level select, split screen heads-up display, and more. Now, both of these classic titles have been available with all sorts of improvements and features thanks to modern ports and emulation systems, but the original games were still running like the day they were last updated. Until now, they ran at 35 FPS and lacked all the aforementioned features. On PC, the original games are available directly from Bethesda using the game launcher. Pretty much every platform under the sun also has them. Bethesda also officially added John Romero's unofficial Final Doom episode sigil with the update. Romero is one of the original developers of Doom and released this version of the game's final episode as a free add-on for the game last year. You continue as Doom Guy following the events of the game's original final episode, battling your way through hell to fight Satan himself and return to Earth. Several exciting and actually useful gaming products made their debut at CES this year. Dell showed off a concept mini PC that has the form factor of the Nintendo Switch. Asus and Nvidia revealed the world's first 360Hz gaming monitor. Intel unveiled their next-gen NUC, Ghost Canyon, and it can be used with a full GPU for gaming. Basically, it seemed like all the major tech companies finally got the memo and worked on products people really want. I did coverage on everything worth mentioning at CES, so be sure to check that video out for even more cool products and info. One thing I didn't cover in my CES video though was Intel's first ever discrete GPU. Intel CPUs have included integrated graphics cards for years now, but the CPU maker hasn't delved into the actual video card arena with a consumer product until now. Called the Intel Xe DG1, the unit showcased at CES ran Destiny 2 and Warframe in 1080p. It's a dual slot GPU that has a max power draw under 75 watts. Unfortunately, it doesn't sound like a very competitive gaming GPU. Reviewers noted sub 60 FPS performance in the hands-on demo, while most speculated the GPU was barely achieving 30 FPS. It seems like Intel's plan is to use multiple GPU cores on one card, sort of like older GPUs from AMD and Nvidia from several years ago. That should boost performance, but will it be enough to compete in today's market? For their first GPU, it certainly seems like Intel are on the right path, but they're clearly years behind both Nvidia and AMD when it comes to gaming performance. It's possible that gaming may not even be the intended use for the Xe, but then again, why would you show it running games at CES at all? Terrible way to show off your new card. Sony also technically made a first-time reveal at CES this year. They debuted the PlayStation 5's logo during their conference, and well, it's what you'd expect. It's the PlayStation 4 logo, but with a 5 instead. Steam has been updated to make buying game soundtracks much more user-friendly. Instead of being considered DLC, which means you need to buy the full game first, soundtracks can now be purchased independently of their game. Many Steam titles include the soundtrack as a bonus for pre-ordering, paying more for a deluxe edition, or just a bonus. Of course, some people just want the soundtrack, so this is a nice move by Valve to make things easier for users. World War II shooter SCRIPTUM is having a free-to-play weekend to celebrate the launch of its French expansion. Plain Jean takes players to the front lines on two new maps, Stone and Dinant. As part of the free weekend, the game is currently 25% off. The update is free for the game, so there's no additional DLC to buy. In our final story this week, co-op zombie shooter Zombie Army 4 Dead War is making the rounds on review sites. It's made by Rebellion, the developers of Sniper Elite. Zombie Army borrows many of the sniping and general gameplay mechanics of Sniper Elite, including its famous slow-mo X-ray nut shots, and it throws in the undead. You and 3 friends can tear through zombie-infested Nazi Germany. This time around, the game includes a full progression system that lets you spec out your character with more in-depth skills and abilities. There's also more cosmetic options, more weapons, and an undead zombie tank enemy. Overall, the reviews are pretty positive, and the franchise is well regarded as a solid, mindless shooter experience. Zombie Army 4 releases on February 4th. And that wraps it up for today's episode of This Week in Gaming. As always, thanks for watching, guys. Give us a like if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications if you'd like to see more episodes in the future. And I'll catch you next time. This is LevelCap, signing off.